Yo, all right. What is up? Uh yeah, man. So we're gonna work on Sparkle a little bit more today. Had fun working on it yesterday. We're gonna keep the train rolling on very similar subject matter. We're gonna keep working on our agent memory, like the conversation bucket. So everything like the messages and everything, we need like a central place to do it. So what I've been using is just kind of this array inside of the agent where we've been pushing all the messages to, kind of calling that like a buffer memory because it's all just stored in memory. So I want to get away from that and offer a driver-based approach that we can use. It's like, you could have an eloquent driver for your conversation history. You could do Redis, Memcache, whatever you want to use. But I want to be able to have some sort of like pluggable way to use it. And yesterday we did a little bit of work and we didn't quite see the results that we were after. And I realized I made a super silly mistake. And we'll get into that mistake and we'll kind of talk a little bit about how I'm backing my way out of it. But this is one of the reasons why I haven't released the code base yet, is this is definitely going to result in some API churn. So we'll just dive right in and start taking a look and yeah, fix some things up. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so let's dive into the mistake that I made. So if we look here at like my little like demo app, this isn't just a demo app. This is also like this is like the app that I use on a day-to-day basis for everything. Like it's my pair programming assistant. It's my just like, hey, prioritize this bucket of things. It's just like my every use case day-to-day assistant and platform. And so it's this Laravel app paired up with Open Web UI as the front end. And that's like my favorite go-to front end. I just started Docker, so I think my front end should be working now. And we can hop in and take a look at this here. Let's pop over to the main desktop. I'll bring the window over. Let's see if this is going to work. It might not, I'm not going to lie. Okay, dope. So this is the front end. You can see that we have like the two models that we have registered here. So if we go over and look at the code, we'll see that we have like Nova, which is like a Nova v2 is like Nova is a base prompt from Collaborative Dynamics. I spoke a little bit about them yesterday. You can check them out at collaborative-dynamics.ai. They are, in my opinion, like at the bleeding edge of prompt engineering. And Nova is one of the prompts that you can buy from them. I have Nova V2, which is really just the Nova based prompt. And then I've added in a little bit of sugar from stuff that I've learned from Collaborative Dynamics, and just kind of like reverse engineering some of their prompts and understanding how it works. So since it's one of the paid for ones, I'm not going to show the prompt or anything, but you definitely head over to their website, check them out. They've got a Discord, tons of information, free prompts, paid for prompts, awesome stuff. Highly recommend it. But you'll see here I've got the two agents registered through Sparkle Server. Then we hop open to Open Web UI, and you'll see that those are both models that we like. Those are the two like models that we can select, but they're really just the agents. So where I made the mistake is we were registering like the conversation driver. This is on a previous version. So let's go take a look at. Right, so we had with conversation where we set the conversation provider, but what was happening was like you could set the like, and then we could do like a new, like pass in like a new array driver. But the problem was like this works great until you like start modifying the order, and then like you put in right? Like with messages, you could pass in like a bunch of messages and everything. But the problem is now we're setting, we also had it default to the array driver. So if we look up at the, we look at the constructor, right? I had it set to default to the array driver, which was a fine decision. But what happens is we start adding over here, we start adding the prompt, which basically gets pushed to message position 0. And then we start adding these messages here, which then get like pushed to the bottom of that array. Then we add a new conversation. We're essentially nullifying we're wiping out all of the messages and saying, hey, here's a new array driver, use this, but we've already added all of the messages. So if we like put it here after the prompt, the prompt would not be there, but any messages we added after the fact would be. So that was just like, I think an obvious mistake that I should have caught, but we didn't. And if we went back, I did like, even for the array driver, I did add like tests later yesterday after the stream, and like these all made sense, but I was still getting like mixed results, and it was all because it became order dependent on when you added that array driver, when you added the prompt to the agent, and then when you added any of the additional messages. So because this is like, I wanted this to be like a fluent interface, I also don't want it to be weird and be like, hey, you got to add this before these other things. I want it to kind of just work uniformly, so you can just eat whatever, like call whatever methods you want in whatever order you want, and everything kind of gets assembled. And if we look at the agent class, it really works that way, right? We're like building up, we're setting the model, we're setting the options, just kind of on the agent class itself. And then when you call run, we assemble everything to the provider, right? We set the model, the tools, the options, the messages, like we construct, we kind of use it as a factory, right? And we construct everything on either run or on the stream method. So I think that there's, this definitely smells like an abstraction between run and stream anyway, now that I'm looking at it. But in an early version of Sparkle, I actually wrote it the way that we're gonna write it. And I'm now kind of remembering the reasoning behind that. So if we take a look at our agent back in the like Laravel app that I use on like a day-to-day basis, like my demo app, right? What we're gonna do is we're going to like, instead of adding the messages directly to the agent, we're going to do something a little different, and we're going to like pass in that conversation. We'll be able to add messages in one of two ways, right? So we can start the conversation. If we want to like pre-add messages, we could start the conversation and say like new array driver, and then we would be able to add on to that, like, if I could only type, that'd be super sweet. Right, and we're say message user, or we can say, yeah, like message user, like, sorry, I haven't used my Moonlander in forever, and I'm using it now, and I've been like hopping back and forth between my laptop and my Moonlander, so my typing's just super sloppy. Right, so we could say like a new array driver, add like the messages to it, and then we can say back down here, use that same like with conversation method, and like then pass in that conversation. But then we'll also be able to go, like if we have the agent and we assigned the agent to a variable, right, provider, we can just grab this actually. Right, we can go back here. Sorry, I'm totally cheating looking at my keyboard. I have a whole bunch of like custom mappings and stuff too, so I got to remember what's what and where are things, right? So we could also do this, but we could also say to our agent, so we could like pass in the conversation. Kind of like test driving this API to see if we like it. And we'll get rid of like the with messages. Oops. I think this is all right. It's maybe a little clunky, and maybe I'll come across like a better pattern a little later, like mulling over it. But I think this is good enough to get rolling, and then this will allow us to have like additional conversation drivers, and kind of just like build up that conversation externally to the agent, because like the agent's really the coordinator, and so I want it to be able to like coordinate with all of these different tools. And maybe we end up like rebuilding like a similar driver pattern to what we're using. So under the hood, the way that we're setting like the provider for these is like just the string is OpenAI, is we're using inside of Laravel very similar to the cache driver and cache manager. So we have different providers that can, like the manager can be extended to add different providers. And then we just have like an OpenAI provider. Then it makes it really easy for me to drop in and write to the interface, an Anthropic provider, Olama, Grok provider, whatever. So maybe we end up doing the same thing in a refactor later, where we can say like with conversation, and then like tell it what driver to use under the hood. I don't know, maybe because then maybe we get back into the same problem of like how we're adding messages. And like the other way we could avoid all of this is to like add the messages to the conversation. Like, so the other way to go about this, and maybe no, I don't think I like that. Like I was thinking the other way we go about this is just like continuing to like have an array up here for like messages, just like we're doing everything else. And then like we construct it later, but then it doesn't make any sense. Like that only makes sense for the array buffer driver, right? Because like that doesn't make sense for the eloquent driver, because that's going to need to be doing something like fetching the conversation out of the database, and so like hydrating the conversation later with the messages from an array of messages. Like I don't think that makes a ton of sense. But then the reason it does make sense is because I'll dive into that too. If we look at the way Sparkle Server works, which Sparkle Server is a way for you to take your agents and like attach them. If we look at the workbench provider, this is how you can register an agent. So I've got like an invocable class for a multi-tool agent. Right, so we have like this invocable where we build up this like agent, we attach a couple tools, we give it a base prompt and everything. We attach it to Sparkle Server, and then you can just use the OpenAI chat completion endpoint to talk to this agent. So it continues to make sense to like pass the conversation to the conversation provider late, because the way that like we get the way that it works in like a chat context, where let's see, we get the messages, because like the way that the API will work, you have to send all of the messages as context back and forth between the client and the server. So when we go here and say, right, of course, I bet I know why. Oh, I definitely know why. We saved this file. I was testing this earlier, it worked, so let's hope it can, great. So we can see Nova's like responding here. So we have 2 messages in the chat. And let's add a third one. We'll just ask it like some arbitrary, what can you do? Cool, it's gonna list off some stuff that it's maybe like skilled with. So the next message we send, it's actually going to send this message, this message, this message, this message, like all 4 of these messages, it's going to send back to the server. So like we're getting every message as a payload every single time. So I guess that makes me think about like, how does that work in the context of an eloquent driver? Like, I'm not so sure how that works in like a Sparkle server context. Like maybe it only makes sense for Sparkle server to work in an array driver, but this is not like the Sparkle package is not just built around, chatting with these agents. Like it's also built in a way that like you could have a Laravel command, like running these agents behind the scenes. And like that maybe makes sense to be able to pull conversation, like agent memory basically. So it's not even like really a conversation, it's like agent memory more or less. And so this gets even more important when you start working with pipelines of agents where agents are coordinating with other agents. There has to be like a layer where that conversation can exist between those 2 agents that's maybe not stateful, or I mean that maybe is stateful, just depending on the kind of app that you're building. So I don't have like a specific use case in mind, but I'm certain someone will come across a use case where that becomes useful. So maybe for Sparkle server, we only support the array buffer driver. So I don't know, maybe I'm thinking about this completely wrong. There's a good chance that I am, and we can just revisit and refactor it later. And like I can have some conversations with some other people about more practical use cases for when that maybe does make sense, and that can help us refine this API. But this is the whole reason why the code isn't released yet, because I'm still churning on this like end goal API, and I'm now getting to the place where I need more concrete use cases in order to continue to drive this out. So anyhow, at least I want to try this, and y'all can like come along for the ride. All right, let's see. I don't know if this music's like really working for me or not. I don't know, this may be better. I don't know. We're using Restream's AI audio, so mileage may vary, I guess. Lo-fi is always a good choice. I'm a big fan. No, I don't want to save any changes. Let's go see what we got. Actually, I think I kind of have all the changes from yesterday. Let's just nuke this stuff. So where are we at? All right, so we're back to like before we started working yesterday, where we just have this array driver. Like we just have an array on the agent, and then we like with prompt, like I said, we push that to message 0, and like we want that to stay in place in message 0 because that's like the system prompt. So when we talk about Nova, that's like the character prompt for Nova. And we always want that to be in message position 0 because that's like the first thing that the AI is going to bring in as context. So we want that to stay there. And then as we add messages, we were just like array merging them. And so this works fine, but there's things like a context window that we have to be mindful of. So like OpenAI, let's talk GPT-4. It's got a 4096 token context window. And so like we need to make sure that all of those messages, so we talked about how the API has to send the entire conversation back and forth when we're talking in a chat context. We only have like 4,096 tokens for both input and output. So that's all of your context, the entire conversation, and the next message that OpenAI needs to reply with. So we probably want some way to like start cutting off older messages. And in Sparkle v2, you can see down here in Tmux, I've got like an older version of Sparkle. And we can take a look at some of this pattern that I have here, right? So if we look at an older agent, I have this conversation class, and when we add messages, like this was, I guess this is some of the woes of moving to a fluent interface, because like in the constructor, when I pass in the conversation driver, like I knew what I was getting. Like I knew I was going to have that driver there from the very get-go, so that when we add messages, we could add it right onto the conversation driver. So this is maybe one of the challenges of like my choice to move to a fluent interface. And you know what, now that I'm talking about it out loud, maybe there's room for me to like turn agent maybe into more of like a truer factory method. I don't know, where like there's like an agent factory, like a fluent agent factory that builds everything up. And then we can use all of the constructor arguments inside of it. I don't know, maybe it's the same problem, just a different way. But if we look at the conversation class, right, it's just it's kind of like a collection driver, right, where we're just like pushing to the collection, and then we have this method that like trims off the older history, right? So we keep the first message in the position because we always want to keep that system prompt there. We never want to drop like that first message. And honestly, we probably want to keep like the first two messages. And I think that's the way this is written, right? Because it's max history plus one. So we want to keep the first two messages because like the first message in position zero is our like character prompt. That's our like that's our character. That's like the core personality and all of the programmatic context that we're adding to our agent. But then we want to keep message number one because that's like in the chat context, like that's the user's message. Like that's basically the request to the agent of like, hey, I want you to do this thing. So we probably want to keep like the first two messages around actually to keep like the personality, and then keep like the actual first request, and then we can start like trimming messages as they get older, as like the conversation gets longer. So we kind of had that a little bit solved here, and honestly we'll probably take most of this interface along for the ride into like the new world. So let's get cracking on this. So we're gonna break a few things, and so maybe let's break things first, and then and then add in the new stuff. So we're not gonna use the with messages anymore. With prompt has to stay. Ooh, I don't like pulling this out of the API, but maybe this is fine to leave. Maybe this is fine. And instead of messages, we'll turn this into and we'll go down to the prompt, and we'll just say, oh, this isn't a string actually. Right, system prompt. We'll do some checking later on that. And so do we have another? No, we don't have any other message methods. All right, so we've got like this message is now going to be, oh, that's on the provider end. So we need to change the provider. No, this will become something a little different. All right, so we got to come up with the next steps. Do we want to stick with conversation? It's really a conversation, right? But I think more broadly, this is actually like an agent memory, and it's just like remembering the conversation. So maybe we'll call this memories, memory providers. Yeah, and we'll call this array buffer. I'm stealing this a little bit from LangChain. So LangChain is like a big, conceptually, it's like a big inspiration for Sparkle. And like LangChain is a library for Python that does a lot of similar things. Their focus is a little less on agents and a little bit more on like, that's not necessarily true. It's like agent chains. It varies, sort of similar conceptually, definitely different execution. Worthwhile checking out. It's where I got my start in all of this, was like when LangChain first came out, I just jumped all over it. I didn't know Python at the time, so it was definitely like a little difficult, but that's how I learned Python, was playing with LangChain. So let's create a new class. Call this memory providers. We're going to assign this an interface too, but let's steal some stuff. All right. I see what keeps tripping me up. I have my on my one side of my Moonlander, I have space for tap and then hold for shift, and so that keeps throwing me out, because like the next thing I want to run is leader, which is my space key, and then an uppercase I to import the collection class. So it's like this weird like tap hold thing, and I need to make sure I get the timing right. Okay, that's not so bad. Definitely a little confusing. It'll take me a minute. Oh, see, this is like did double I, which is import all classes. I don't know. I'm gonna have to mess with some stuff. All right, so we've got like max history. I definitely want to do a fluent interface for this. I don't like this. I don't know if I like this like static construct. Maybe it's the better call. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just gonna run with it for now. And the reason why I'm not just saying return new static is PHP Stan is going to yell at me about like unsafe static. So I guess I could ignore that rule, but I'm going to assume it's a good opinion, and I'm going to just actually return the class name, I guess. No, I don't want all of them. Just this one. Please, just import this one. Maybe we got this. Maybe we got the timing right on this one. Ooh, we did. All right, so we imported the message. Trim messages. I'm gonna assume. I don't know. I made this assumption yesterday, and I don't know if I was right. I'm gonna assume everything was written correctly in here. And so I think we can take add message, add messages. just like a super, ooh, this maybe feels better. Ha. That feels nicer. All right, cut out a little duplication there. All right, so trim messages is private. I liked from Laracon Nuno's relaxed preset for Pest Arch Test. So I'm gonna actually change this to protected instead of private. We have, all right, so I want to definitely grab these, and we're going to go contracts. We have our LLM provider, create a memory provider. Yeah. No, this is my class, but we'll fix that. All those spaces here. All right, we've already been going for 30 minutes. I gotta kind of try to keep this around an hour, I think. So we'll see how far we get. And I almost guarantee I'll be back tomorrow streaming. Because for y'all watching, if you didn't know, I got laid off on Thursday. It really sucks. But I have a ton of time to work on Sparkle now. So we're probably going to stream every day until I get a job. And then I'll probably keep it up after that because I really enjoy sharing what I can with all of y'all. Oh, see, we got the timing right this time. All right. All right, and then we'll go back here, not to the agent, array buffer. All right, let's check. Ooh, what did I do there? Let's check in on PHP stand. Awesome. These are going to be broken. That's fine. All right, so I still want to, I think, default. I think I still want to default to this. You know, this is an opinionated library. I have opinions, and I also just really want to make things super convenient. So if you don't care, you're probably not going to run into a problem if you're just using the array buffer driver. And then if you get into like more specialized use cases, that's where the other drivers I think will probably come into play. Like I said, I'm going to have to come up with like a more concrete use cases in order to drive the rest of this out. By the way, Alani, that's where it's at. All right. That's what we called it, right? Array buffer. All right, we can leave it this way, I think. Sorry, I'm gonna make this a little smaller so I can read it. You know, that's actually, why I like doing this. Just makes it a little easier to read when I split. All right, so it takes in messages. We have a max history of 20. We're going to assume some stuff works. Okay, that looks right. We're just gonna like leave defaults because we like defaults, and then I think we're gonna want to add in a we got a snippet. Whoa, what do we do there? Oh my goodness, I'm just making a mess. I forgot I started making snippets for different things because tab order is kind of weird, at least in my setup right now. So with memory, that feels better. Memory provider. Let's get some formatting in here. Gotta love that auto formatting on save. All right. I know some of you are thinking like, man, if you were using like Copilot or Cursor, this would probably just automatically complete all this stuff for you. Probably would, but I'm difficult. All right, so we're setting the memory. And then I think we can say, we can do the same thing here. Let's check PHP stand. All right. Now, sometimes I like to play the guessing game with tests and see what's going to fail. We're definitely, if these tests passed, I'm gonna be shocked. Good. What did we error out on? No matching provider for with messages. I think that's right. All right. We got rid of the with messages. Let's go take a look at our agent test. We'll go back and write tests for our memory provider and stuff later. All of these should be failing. 2 failed. How many tests do I have in here? 1, 2. Okay, so 2 tests. And honestly, I don't even know if this is a good way to go about testing these things. I'm normally really hesitant about mocking, but like I'm mocking my own stuff, one, and I'm mocking an interface. I'm not even mocking a concrete class. So like, maybe this feels all right. I was looking at how Laravel tests the cache driver, and it seems similar, I think. We're going to leave that alone. All right, so it should receive with messages. Nope, it's not going to receive with messages anymore. Oh, wait, yes. Yes, it still should. But, see, here's an example of how we're using driver. Driver manager pattern that I was just talking about, right? So we're saying Sparkle extend in like under the hood. I'll take a little detour, show this off, right? So under the hood, when we call extend on Sparkle, really what we're doing is we're resolving the Sparkle manager class. And if we look at, it's really like the provider manager. The naming's a little wonky. I swear to God, I'll fix it. But really what that does is that it just extends the Illuminate Support Manager, and we're going to say our default driver is OpenAI. After I do Anthropic, I'm probably going to switch it to that because that's my preferred provider. But I know a lot of people will use OpenAI, but like I said, this is opinionated, so I'm going to sprinkle in my opinions. And then so like we got this method to like create the OpenAI driver, but the extend comes from the manager class, right? So underneath the hood, we're just saying like, hey, manager, extend this with the new driver and a closure. It's the exact same thing that like session and cache use inside of the framework itself. So we're just giving ourselves a mock provider. And then you can see when we define the agent that we're just saying based on the string, hey, use the mock provider. Tell it GPT-4, doesn't matter what model we're using under the hood. We do assert against it up here that we should be getting using with GPT-4 based on the LLM provider. So under the hood, we have our agent, and then we have our LLM provider. And our agent is a factory with some sugar working with the LLM provider. So we need to add a conversation to our agent. So we have the prompt. So we actually got to go back to not the facade. We need our actual agent, and we need to go to the prompt, and we're going to have to add this in. Here, we're going to do this. And let's return an LLM provider. So we're just going to cut like all this out. I knew there was an abstraction somewhere in there. All right, and so we want to, this message is, ooh, we know what we need to add to no, prepend message returns self. Oh my goodness. Like I said earlier, if I could only type. All right, so we have prepend message. I don't know how this is going to work with an Eloquent driver, but I need this to work with a memory driver because I dog food this package, and I need this to work. So I don't know, maybe tomorrow I'll try to get some like concrete examples. Maybe tomorrow we drive out an Eloquent driver with a concrete example and we see what we actually need. So that's kind of how I'm figuring out all the API churn. It's like when I do function calling for Anthropic, I almost guarantee that's going to have API churn on how we define functions and function calling, also for OpenAI, because this is all just like an abstraction over all of these things. And I'm like trying to hide all of that away, so you just have this like really nice agent interface to work with. So there's probably going to be some API churn, so I want to like get ahead of that as much as possible. But we need a way to like prepend the system message onto the conversation, because I really want to have the like with prompt method be on the agent instead of part of the conversation. Oh, because then I have like, if I make it part of the memory, then you have to know that like your prompt needs to be in position 0 of the conversation. Oh, this is so sticky. I don't like it, but I don't know. Do I abandon ship on this again? No, I say we finish this and just like see. So we say this memory. Ooh, we got to go to the array buffer. Please tell me this is an error. Let's see what it says. Ooh, whoops. Prepend message. All right, cool. That's fine. This is what we should have. Nope. Public goes first. I really want to know if there's a rector rule to like reorder methods, because I'm like kind of opinionated about having like public, then protected, and then private kind of in like a specific order. I wonder if there's a rector rule for that, because that would make my life pretty happy. I guess I could always write one. I've never done that before, but we could, I suppose. All right. What are we doing? Public method. Because it's just a collection. See, this is something that my LSP does. So like when it like auto completes that, so it can tell that I'm about to type a method from the interface, so it like gives me like the autocomplete, but then it puts the like I just replaced it with self with like a memory provider. So this is technically true. We are returning a memory provider, but I can't remember why, but something bit me in a refactor doing that. So we're just gonna make sure we say self. You know, I think that bit me mocking the LLM provider, because that doesn't technically return an LLM provider. It technically returns a mockery mock. So yeah. All right, so we added the prepend message. We're gonna go back to our agent, and we're gonna prepend the prompt. And we'll say this memory messages. I'm not typing fast enough. Hey, we're back to working. We're back to working with the default, which is nice. All right, so oh, you know, I wish I wouldn't have nuked the test from yesterday, because we're basically rewriting the same test again. All right, well, I guess we're rewriting the same test again, because I definitely nuked that from Orbit. So this is NeoVim. So my setup, Tmux, NeoVim, and this is like the oil plugin for NeoVim. It's awesome. Like, even if you don't use NeoVim as an editor, set yourself up with NeoVim and oil, and it's like a way to modify your directory and like files and like manage your file tree with like through Vim bindings. It's super handy. I don't know. Like, so after Laracon, they demoed the first party Laravel plugin for VS Code. It's got me really wanting to try VS Code again. I'd say 4.5 years ago, I gave VS Code a full-time run for close to a year instead of using Vim. And I kind of enjoyed it. I got it really dialed in. This is about the same time Caleb did his VS Code Awesome course. So if you want to try out VS Code, definitely go snag that course. So it was around that time So I made it awesome and I used it and I really liked it, especially his Better PHP Unit plugin. That thing's awesome, Caleb's plugin. So it's making me want to try VS Code again. So maybe when that drops, I'll give it another shot, but I guarantee that I'll still be using Oil to manage my file system. It's just like, it's so good. So we have an I'm probably using this like a caveman. Like my name's TJ, but I am not on TJ's level with NeoVim. So I guess this is actually test memory. And we're gonna go ahead and say, we're just gonna say it trims messages, right? So let's just pull this up. Right, so we're gonna say we have some ooh. All right, let's do that. And we're actually gonna set the, no, this should be max history. Let's go look at, ooh. I guess we can leave this, we don't have to specify that. Sorry, y'all, I'm gonna make this a little smaller. Hopefully it's still legible. All right, so this should say max history now. Great, we're gonna say 4 because we're gonna test. That'll get cleaned up. Let's see, we'll watch it get cleaned up. Messages. All right, so we're gonna say let's just stick with Nova because that's fun. Oh no, we're gonna say, ooh, you don't know what? This isn't just a bunch of, this is an array of messages. We'll fix that in a second. Or we'll fix it now. I don't know why. I gotta fix this key binding. It's so annoying. All right, so we've got 3 messages in here. You know, let's just add a fourth one. It's gonna annoy me so much. It's like some keybind where you like double tap escape and then an arrow, or like double tap escape and then like J or K for like up or down. But because I remap my caps lock for hold for control and tap for escape, there's like some weird timing at play, so I can't even do it consistently. It ends up tripping me up constantly. So I'm gonna have to figure out what to do. I maybe can tweak the timing settings in the keyboard, in like my Moonlander settings. Maybe that's what I'll try. I'm not gonna bother with that right now though. All right, so we have 4 messages in there. We're gonna say it trims off 4. You know what, we'll do it this way. Right, let's just roll with that, right? So we should expect not 3, 4, not 5, 4. See? Totally screwed up. All right. I fixed this yesterday and now I forgot what I did. Oh, wait. I think I remember, because we wanted to save, we actually wanted to save the first 2. So what we're gonna do, whoa. Hey, that's the one. Oh, nope. Dude, what is going on? That's what I was looking for. We'll be a little cheeky in our test. I guess this is actually 5. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'd be the 6th. All right. So this is working as expected. We've got some like 0 indexing number weirdness going on, considering we're saving the first 2 messages, because we want to save the system. Like, this is a perfect example of what we're trying to do, right? We want to save the system message because that tells the agent what it is. Then we want to save the first user message because that sets all the context up for the conversation that it's going to be having with the agent. And so this actually makes sense. Let's drive out a couple more expectations. So we want to also expect that let's go. Let's just break these up a little bit, give it some spacing. All right, I want to test this and make sure it should be actually, no. This should be oh, see, that's not what we wanted. I thought it was supposed to save the first 2, but it's really only saving the first 1. Oh, goodness gracious. think this is actually what we want to do, and I want to nope, I want to wrap this in parens. Oh, that was the right one, but we screwed up. Oh my gosh. Hey, we got it right that time. All right. 6 instead of 5. Oh my god. Oh, I think I gotta do it here. I think this is actually what we wanted. I'm slowly coming back to me, like what I had fixed on this algorithm. I don't know. I fixed this yesterday, or last night, and oh, all right. And so let's test. This and see what we get. Now this should be what can you do? No, I can do everything. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So it should cut off this. We added another message. Yeah, so it should be what can you do? No, it shouldn't be. So save those 2, 3. It should be I can do everything. Because if we get rid of this, now it should be what can you do? Oh my gosh. I know you're from the assistant. Two, 3. So 0. My God, am I really 0, 1, 2? I don't know. We're coming up in an hour, so I'm probably going to bail on this. Let's just get this passing in a broken state, and then I'll figure out this later. Wait, we deleted something else. Deleted the adding the message. So 2, 3, 4, 5. So it should overflow by 1. It should be what can you do? It's saying max history. So we're saying like negative max history minus 2, right? Because we really want save 2. Maybe I messed this up. Maybe I'm wrong. we're gonna green this up, and I'm just gonna stop messing around on stream with this, and I'll figure this out later. My brain's starting to fry a little bit. Let's see what we got. All the tests are passing. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna say. All right, and then do our semicolon, right, skipped. Let's see what Stan has to say. Ah, yes. Wait, where? Oh, that's right. So we broke the Sparkle server controller. All right, so we're back to the Sparkle server controller. I don't have tests for the Sparkle server controller, so that's something I'm going to have to do for sure. Ooh, never mind. Gotta call this memory. Sick. All right, so that's that. I'm not gonna mess with this anymore today. I'm gonna figure out what was going on. I'm gonna figure out what was going on with that message trimming, because I'm pretty sure I'm right that that's not working correctly, but my brain is starting to fry out, and so we're just gonna. I'll tinker around with that either like later tonight or first thing tomorrow. So I should have it resolved by the time we get back to streaming tomorrow, and then we'll figure out something to dive into. Maybe we'll dive into an Eloquent driver and see what that looks like. That might take a little bit of extra work because I don't know if I have test bench and everything set up to handle databases, but we do have our example app, so we might dive into that. Like I said, I need more concrete examples of how I'm going to use that, I think, before I go too much further, but I don't want to cause any API churn after I do like an initial release. So I don't know, we'll play with it. There's plenty to work on. Like, we can write some tests. We can, we'll find something to dive into, but thanks for hanging out on the stream and watching me yell at code, I guess. So we'll see you later.